Feminists and women in general tell society what they want from men, but when we give it to them exactly how they want it, they often become enraged. You probably noticed this, and it makes no logical sense to you because when a man asks a woman for something specific, and she basically gives it to him, it doesn't mean you wanted something different. When feminists say they want equality, what they really mean is that they want a man to listen to their requests and challenge them. They're looking for a fun social conflict between men and women. That is the ultimate goal. So if a woman wants a creepy man to leave her alone and only good-looking guys to contact her, she can do so. That is not what she desires in life. She still wants the creepy betas to talk to her, so she can label them as friends and use them financially, emotionally, or in other ways. In theory, feminists who claim to want gender equality should be ecstatic about men going their own way. Finally, a group of men who treat women equally and ignore them as women generally ignore men, but they want quality outcomes rather than necessarily quality of responsibility. The only way to achieve a high level of quality is for men to work harder than they normally would in order to provide for women. Men must shoulder more responsibility while providing a larger and larger share of the spoils to women. So now that some men have realized this and are walking away, women who advocate for equality are caught between a rock and a hard place. If they say to men, "Sorry, we don't want you to go because we need you to do more than your fair share and hand over more than half of the riches, if not more, to society," men will realize they're being used. But if women say they want equality and men treat them equally, and more men go their own way, women aren't happy either. If feminists and other opponents of MGT0W were supportive, men going their own way would gain social validation from women, and our numbers would continue to grow, leaving women with fewer and fewer willing parasites to take what they needed. When a woman says she needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, she's bluffing and putting on her best poker face in the hopes that men will fall for the hand that nature has dealt women, and believe that women actually have the better hand. Most women are nothing more than bad hand gamblers attempting to bluff their way into a man's heart in order to extract riches. If the man calls out her bad hand, she will basically shame him for it and make him feel bad for calling her bluff. If he insists on calling the woman's bluff regardless of the shame, he will frequently be kicked to the curb. That's how it works in relationships. But outside of relationships, women are bluffing and saying they don't need men. And you know what men do? By going their own way, they are actually calling the women's bluff. So that's why women call MGT0W women haters and shame us when all we're interested in is our own survival. Women will never be supportive of us going our own way because without us, civilization crumbles and they lose everything. But they can't admit this because if they did, we'd see them for what they truly are. Just because you put on a pair of pants and pretend to be an adult does not make you a man, honey. You weren't even allowed to wear pants for the longest time. And now you want men in skirts chopping our balls off and using transgender bathrooms. The only reason there are lover girls living together and working is because women are allowed to enter the workforce and produce enough wealth to support themselves. Women only go their own way after all the work has been done for them, and the assets have been transferred to them. That is why they dislike MGT0W. The work and assets remain in the hands of men. They're critical of the MGT0W movement because it keeps resources out of their hands, but they can't say that because it would reveal their weak hand and that they actually need men after all. If women weren't allowed into the workforce like they were before the 20th century, female lovers would vanish in a heartbeat because they'd all be looking for men to marry to provide for them. The last thing on their minds would be physical pleasure. Only women in the mid to late 20th century had access to the lazy lifestyle. I predict that as more men go their own way and accumulate their own wealth and enjoy their own lives, women will become increasingly impoverished or reliant on debt and the government to stay afloat. Because it is part of their socialization, women will always say one thing and mean another. It's also likely part of their biology, as they don't appear to be able to approach everything in life directly. They are constantly attempting to enter our minds through our back doors, and they are not as literal as men are. As men, we cannot afford to be literal because we must accomplish and achieve various objectives in the real world. Women, on the other hand, can't afford to be direct and sneaky because if we know what they're up to and where they stand on any given issue, or if their true intentions are clear and something goes wrong, they don't want us blaming them. While feminists claim to want true equality, what they really desire is female superiority. If men go their own way and promote true equality, it often works against their feminism and desire to be superior. They can only be superior if we play the game and do what they say. They want subjects, but we've chosen to exile ourselves. We are leaving the plantation, and if feminists destroy our societies, the men who make a difference will eventually leave the countries where they are valued. Men who go their own way choose not to play and instead run away from women. Instead, we choose to stay in liberal cities building up our resources and making women hate us because they see what they can't have and are angry about it, which irritates them even more. The alternative is to be a man who acts like a feminist puppet or a masculine conservative. Women win in either case, and feminists only want to give men those two options. We select neither box because we recognize that both are genocentric and that you can't win either way, so we simply walk away and remove ourselves from the equation. The issue is that there is no equation for men walking away and not interacting with women. The feminists know this deep down inside, but are afraid to say it for fear of frightening all of their willing slaves. So instead, they're just attacking men who are going their own way, calling us gay because we don't want to be a woman's slave, or they're calling us misogynists, thinking that if we're all labeled as woman haters, we'll all be okay. They despise MGT0W because it contradicts what they say, and they're angry at us because we took their words literally instead of simply hearing them and putting them in their place. There are two kinds of men out there: the weak men who give women whatever they want. These men take women's desires literally and want to please them in order to receive pleasure and love. Then there are the men who do things their own way and take women literally. When they actually say they don't need men, they're saying, "Fine, if you don't need us, we'll leave." Receiving love and taking all the risks is no longer enough to keep a man around. Historically, when men went off to battle and died, their pain and suffering ended relatively quickly. But today, a man who is divorced and loses his home, children, wife, and purpose is far worse off than a man who dies on the battlefield. Don't forget to hit the like button to help spread the word about this video. Thank you for taking your daily dose of red pills, and remember that a red pill a day keeps bad poker hands away. So have a good rest of your day and cheers.